Greetings, we're live. They 404'd that. 404. I don't know what that means. Casey's going to explain it to us. So welcome to the Synergy Cafe Monday edition.
What's up?
Do I look tall right now? Watch this. Okay, I'm going to go sit down. So.
Look at that, he shrank.
Yeah, I should lay on the couch. So I'm not sure what we're going to talk about today other than good grief. I was trying to come up with a topic, and it's really hard to try and find something until you get centered in. I don't know how Joe Rogan does it. I think he just has someone find a guest, and then he talks about whatever the guest has to say.
I think that's what he does. He
Something
books
like
a
that.
bunch of guests, and then he just talks.
But you got this event coming up, so I thought we'd talk about grief a little bit.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Casey's got an event coming up, grief ritual, retreat thing. For if anybody has that kind of trauma, they need to kind of heal some wounds.
Yeah, you can find it on microshift.com.
And I took some other notes too. See, I was looking at different words, so I'm going to throw the words in here because what I'm doing right now with these videos is the video voice goes into the internet and then somehow it figures out these words. So one topic I thought about was economic collapse.
Okay.
Another one was mental health, because that's relevant to the grief and the stuff that I'm going to be doing soon.
Sure.
Not that I'm crazy or anything, but some people think so. And the other topic...
We're all a little crazy.
I had a friend that mentioned that. His name was Dota. He used to have a kiosk here, hang out at Calvin Square. And that's kind of what he said, is everybody's got a varying different degrees of insane.
Yeah.
I get that. You see some people that are on one spectrum and another end of the spectrum. These geniuses, and we've got a friend that lives down in Texas. He grew up here in Fridley, and he's really mousy kind of guy. So he's bad with the girls, but for some reason, because he's good looking, the girls like him, but doesn't know how to act. And the girls, they kind of like, I want a man. And then they find out how much money he's got. And
I'm sure that helps.
he's really smart. When we were magicians, when we were kids, he figured out a way to disrupt the signal on a television so that you could have someone pick a card, like 4 hearts, and then we concentrate on your card, and all of a sudden the TV would show a black and white 4 with a heart in it. This was a little disruptor thing that he made with a soldering gun and some circuits. Well, he's a brain like that, and we're on a MacBook Air right now. One of his chips is in this computer. In fact, it's in all the computers because he's that kind of guy. He created a chip that goes in all the computers.
Nice.
That's why he's got a lot of money. Anyways, enough of that. Another topic, speaking of that, is what is the easiest way to make money? And then we've got the grief ritual and the 7 stages of grief. I picked 7 because I like the number 7.
Sure.
7 chakras, 7 notes in a scale, 7 days in a week. 7 colors if you take the 3 primary and the 3 secondary and then give you black.
You want to knock them down one at a time? Start at the top?
Colors? No.
No.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Because then we'll finish up. This is going to be kind of long, so I don't know. Let's go through them fast.
Well, yeah, we'll go through and we'll skip the ones that are relevant to the main topic.
Yeah, which is the last 2.
Yeah.
And then so economic collapse. I think there's something happening here. I don't know what kind of collapse
it's huge.
Happen.
Yeah.
But I did notice that at the grocery store, some shelves are becoming empty and stuff.
Yeah, shelves are becoming empty, but the big teller is inflationary rates have been high for a while. So we've been having this like major inflationary rates, which is usually a telltale sign of pre-collapse of a currency whenever you have high inflation for a while. But it's also relevant that there's been major tech layoffs. A lot of industries are looking at doing major layoffs right now. Not that the economy is doing that.
And why are they laying off?
So there's a lot of different claims that are going around out there on why they're laying off, but long and short of it is they just don't. They're saying they don't have the money to pay people.
That's right. Yep, they're getting rid of their fancy-dancy offices and saying, we'll just co-work from home and all that stuff, and we'll hire the people we need to hire. And the other people are expendable. And I learned that early on in my career while I was at school. I had a job with the county parks department, and I had a little green shirt with my name on it. And I thought I was going to be with my dad and be a construction worker. And about 4 years, we got to let you go. Where's my gold watch? So yeah, they're expendable.
Yep.
Advertising is to be expendable, but all the little stuff, like I noticed a lot of you go to Uptown, and they have the neon signs, and there's a couple letters out. They don't fix it.
Yeah.
It's expensive. We don't need it.
Right.
We're downtown to see the lights anyways.
Yeah, if you drive around local neighborhoods too, what you'll notice is even it doesn't matter unless you live in a super wealthy neighborhood. You drive around and look how many people are letting their houses go. You have a few people who are fixing their houses up, but it's usually people who just bought or are about to sell. For the most part, though, everybody's letting their houses go. They're like, yeah, okay, well, we need to deal with other things right now. That's not a priority right this minute.
Well, I saw this stuff coming a while back because it's sort of inevitable where all the with the digital currency and all that kind of stuff, and these crazy wars and things that are consuming money, and the concept of money isn't real in the first place, and they're trying to figure out how are we going to do this now that there's nothing to attach it to, and the banks are having issues. You go to the bank and there's one teller, big line of people, because eventually there's going to be no tellers and a bigger line of people.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes into the next topic, and that is profit from your passion and what's the easiest way to make money online. And that's the thing that I've been doing.
Oh, online. I thought you just said what's the easiest way to make money. I was going to say easiest way to make money would be get a job. That's actually the easiest.
I know, but we just talk. See, that don't work because they're not paying enough because we just got to talk about it.
Oh yeah, they don't pay enough.
So what happens if you get a job paying you at $20 an hour and you're at home and you're consuming $21 an hour, you're going backwards and you can't fix your driveway.
Sure.
So a job is not the answer because it's not scalable.
Yeah.
Unless you can bribe your boss into paying you more than he's getting paid. So that profit from your passion, if you can find something, I say profit from your passion because when things get tough, your passion will pull you through and have you keep going rather than going, I hate this stuff.
Right.
Making money on the internet isn't all that easy. I've been working at it for a while. I made a little bit here, a little bit there, but I spend a lot doing it. To me, the easiest way, and I mentioned before, is the affiliate model because you don't have to store any product, you don't have to create any product, you don't have to warehouse any product, you don't have to ship any product, you don't have to deal with returns, you don't have to deal with payment processing, you don't have to deal with customer service. All you gotta do is make a connection.
Yeah. So
that to me, I think is the easiest way to do it.
Probably.
And all these corporations that have all this stuff they need to move to make money, they need someone to make the connection for them.
Sure.
So it's no longer the guy that sits at the counter and rings it up when you come to the counter. We don't need that. They're just a drain when there's nobody in the store.
Yeah.
So it's all going internet-based.
I think the next easiest way would be blind shipping.
Blind shipping?
Yeah.
Is that like drop shipping only you do with your eyes closed?
Well, it's good. It's a blind drop ship. Yeah. So basically, like on say TikTok or there's Amazon shops where people can set up their own Amazon shops. You don't have to maintain anything. You just sell from companies that already have the product, and the orders come in. They get auto processed because you can get either you have software for that or you're using something like TikTok that already has it built in, and then basically people end up using that as third party, right? Because it's all done by third party. All you need to do is review and accept your orders. And then what happens once you review and accept, then all that happens is the orders get sent automatically to the manufacturers. The manufacturers then package it all, and they package it as though it's coming from you, and then they ship it.
So the reason I don't like that is I don't want them knowing that it's coming from me because then I got to deal with possible lawsuits and all that other shit.
Nope.
Huh? I don't want them to know it came from me. I want them to go direct to the company. That's just my own preference, though.
Well, that's the next one. I would say direct shipping. But if it was direct shipping, I would go directly to the company. That's the thing. If I knew that you were buying from, say, I don't know, what's a good company that I know? Host Defense. Host Defense is a great company. So they sell medicinal mushrooms and like lion's mane and reishi and all kinds of different stuff.
Nice segue.
Yeah. So let's say they do all that, right? And if I knew that somebody was drop shipping from them and they were just going directly from the company, I'd want to just cut off the middleman and go directly to the company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to pay the middleman.
Yeah. And that's a similar reason why I don't want to work with a Shopify store or a TikTok shop or Amazon.
Yeah.
Because they can throttle it down if they
Right.
want to. I don't want anybody throttling me. So that's where I'm at. Profit from your passion and easier ways to make money.
I wouldn't say that. I would say it's very rare, though, that somebody's going to be very passionate about dropshipping or affiliate.
Well, depending on the no, I'm talking about the product.
Yeah, I mean, if you're passionate about it, such as I was just talking about mushrooms and health, which I am. I talk about that on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
I'm constantly recommending lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail. Those are the three major ones that I'm usually recommending.
Yeah,
I'm always recommending Host Defense, Stand 7. I'm always recommending that to people.
So that stuff should have an affiliate program tied to it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't have an affiliate program, but they do have a partnership program. So
it's kind of probably the same kind of thing.
It's
There just needs to be a tracking link or some way that you can know that you're getting compensated because it was your efforts.
I have to contact them and see whether they do drop shipping or whether I have to inventory myself.
Right. And that's where personally I don't want to deal with inventory.
And that's the big question. Because I was waiting until I had all of my EIN and all of that kind of stuff in a row. And then I got all of that in January. And of course, I had a new baby. And it all just kind of went out of my head for a while.
You didn't have it.
Well, that is true.
You still got it.
I did not give birth to the baby, but I do have the baby.
You're just getting more clarity these days.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of videos about pregnant dads right now. There's a lot of videos on it. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah, let's change the subject. Okay. I don't know what time it is, but we covered those kind of quick. I like talking about that kind of thing because I'm still an advocate of the affiliate model in that there's a plethora of products. There's a guy that I just talked to earlier today. He's an RV guy, and he likes nature, and he's an affiliate with tiny homes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are downscaling. They're realizing, you know, honey, we don't need a 3-bedroom apartment because the kids are gone. We don't need this big giant kitchen and 3-car garage anymore. Why don't we get one of those tiny homes and put it in the woods somewhere?
I could not do a tiny home.
Well, you could
in the woods somewhere though.
You could do 7 of them.
I've thought about that. I've thought about that. I was like, okay, so like, how would I do this? When I get a really big home, yeah, we got 7 kids. So if I had a really big home, right, I could have a really big home with a bunch of bedrooms, right, and then have like that whole setup, or I could do a central type of like community area,
Yes.
right, that I design. And then have little tiny homes, and all of the kids who are older than, say, the age of 6 get a little tiny home. And then I just come in, you know, like, because if I'm out.
Yeah, connect them with little tunnels. It'd be like a little hamster trick.
I can make a giant yurt that's in the middle and connect them like hub and spoke. Yeah, and then basically you would just be going to each one and be like, hey, time to get going today.
The way they do it in Bali, Indonesia, is they got the small home and they build it modularly. And all of a sudden they have a kid they add on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how they do it because they're almost like the Waltons, where they got the grandparents are there and all the grandkids, and they just add on to these things. And then instead of a home inspector, it's actually a priest that comes in and blesses the room when you do the add-on. it's not so much a home inspector that does it. It's someone that's more of a spiritual type person that says, okay, the energy's clear, move the kids in. If they have another one, then they build another module or they add it up or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was going to stay at a place, Katut's place, which is funny because when we go to Bali, a lot of people are called Katut. So you get in the cab and I say, I'm going to Katut's place. They go like, where? Which Katut? But there's a place in Ubud called Katut's place, and I was going to stay in this third floor. It's got a nice little kitchenette and a little bedroom, bathroom situation. It's small. It's probably like 12 by 12.
Wow.
And he was going to let me stay there for $65 a month.
$65 a month.
Yeah. And I was going to internet and I was going to promote yoga retreats.
Nice.
In Ubud, Bali. That's what I was going to do until I got married. Plans change. So, I don't know how, this is 7 stages and we're only 15 minutes in, but let's talk about this thing because it's your, what?
I was saying, are we done with the list?
I think so. Go through the list one more time in case the spiders want to copy my words. Economic collapse, mental health, profit from your passion. What is the easiest way to make money online? Grief ritual and 7 stages of grief.
All right, so we're on the end.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which mental health? We grouped mental health in with this one.
Yes, and that's part of mental health.
Yeah.
To me doesn't. Some people think it's like you're going crazy, but it
Yeah.
isn't necessarily that. I would say that even I had a transient ischemic attack, which is called a mini stroke. That would be mental health to me. It involves
That's
the brain.
mental health, absolutely.
So I think because when I went to Asheville, North Carolina, I dealt with a guy. It's called brain core, and I had to wear this thing on my head that had these little electrodes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Here's what you got to do. You got to watch all these different Tom Hanks movies. Pick whichever you want. You're going to watch it." And what happened with it is it would start getting dark if I wasn't focusing right, and the volume would go down if I wasn't focusing right. So what it was doing was reconnecting the neurons.
Yeah.
Because I want to watch the part with Tom Hanks with Wilson, the volleyball, and I don't want to miss that. And so your brain starts going, okay, let's hook back up. Okay, there it is, the volleyball, Wilson. So that was an interesting situation. So I think a lot of that stuff is mental health, and it's not just people that are going crazy. It's also like in my situation that I'm going to be going on a retreat, hopefully soon. And I've got these blocks. I know that there's some kind of blocks that are preventing me from thinking to have better success. So I've got these mindset blocks, you might call them. And I feel that I cannot hear them because I'm talking to myself and I give myself bad advice and my ego kind of chickens out. Mm-hmm. And I have a hard time working with a therapist because of my magic background. I know how to trick people. So I can trick my coaches and therapists that are trying to help me.
Right. So now you need something to trick you.
So exactly. I'm going to do something that is beyond my control.
Yeah.
I'm taking the leap.
That's a good idea.
Okay,
yeah, grandmother medicine is a really good idea though.
Oh, he let the cat out of the bag.
Well, you said it last time. You said
I know, but they're not watching last time. They missed last time.
You have to go back and watch last time.
Yeah, go find it.
Yeah, go back and go find it.
Google MagicBrad grandma medicine.
I don't think that's going to work.
So I went and found these stages, and like in my grief, my parents passed when I was in like 9th grade. My dad died, and about 11 years later, my mom died. So and then I had a sister that died. But when my dad died, I remember the weirdest thing. I go to the funeral thing, and I was out in the lobby, and the guy says, "Aren't you going to go in there and pay last respects to your father?"
Mm-hmm.
My mind went, "Why would I no longer respect my father?"
Right.
Respect.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
It didn't make any sense to me. So I think maybe my little trip thing is going to reveal some other griefs, some things that I didn't deal with.
Yeah.
Probably in that, because he died in an icky way. He got ran over by a bulldozer.
Oof.
so squished. So there's probably stuff in there, and it's not so much that he's gone because I can still talk with him because I know how to connect. But the things that I missed out on, Boy Scouts, and he used to teach me how to do the sweet bag.
Yeah.
And making things. We used to make stuff in the garage, so I never got to experience that kind of stuff, even though it'd be like 9th grade. So he used to like my magic stuff. He used to call it quick. I like that quick of the hand, instead of sleight of hand. The quick of the hand, you do this. And then he never got to see me do that when I was actually got really good after grade school, 9th grade, 10th grade.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's one of the things. So when I found this, I noticed that this is in the stages of healing, isn't it? When you get down to the 7th level.
Let's see. I have my own reference here.
That's not bad.
Oh, no.
This is it.
I'll have to look on your cheater sheet.
No.
But yeah, it's you are right. There are some stages of healing.
This
stages of so denial. So basically it's denial, guilt, anger, and bargaining. I thought anger and bargaining were 2 different stages. This one puts them together.
I got that off the internet. So.
Yeah, I was reading this because it talks about the upturn. I don't actually think that that's another stage, but because I remember reading it. The idea of this 7 stages of grief actually comes from a book. I think it's by the same title, 7 Stages of Grief. But it's shock, denial, guilt, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So those are the 7 stages. I don't think that it normally talks about that.
Well, let's deal with those anyways.
Yeah.
So, it's possible that in my own personal situation, I'm in denial.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making an excuse that it's okay, I can talk to my dad. It's not that bad. But I don't feel anything coming up. Maybe when I go to Costa Rica.
Maybe there is something that you haven't dealt with. And,
Yeah.
But you told me about some really good stories about you dealing with some grief surrounding your parents, and I don't know. I'm thinking maybe you worked through a lot of that. There could be something
I believe
else.
I have to. I think there's going to be a mild depression, like I was talking about, of feeling like I didn't quite get what I could have got, and neither did he.
I think that you are going through some grief, but I think you're going through some grief around career shift.
Oh, there's definitely that.
Yeah.
And then it goes into depression. So, okay, the shock and denial. It's like the Alcoholics Anonymous thing, you denying that I have a problem. So you got to accept it and realize that I'm going through a grief problem.
Yeah.
You're shocked and you go, oh, it's okay. It wasn't my fault. It'll be okay. I'm sad, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then the next stage is pain and guilt, where all of a sudden you go, you know what? I don't feel okay. Kind of sad.
Yeah, I should be fine, but you're guilty about or guilty that you didn't do something that you were supposed to do with them. I still go through that one sometimes with my dad.
Yeah, like didn't say I love you enough, and now it's too late.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. But see, I dealt with that kind of stuff when I went out to the cemetery plot.
Yeah.
And then there's the anger and bargaining. I'm not sure where that goes. I get the bargaining where you start.
Well, that's why I thought it was very interesting that they grouped those 2 together, because, again, my understanding was that anger and bargaining were 2 different steps. So anger is like, I'm so mad. Like, how could you do this to me? Like, that's a big one. That's a big trigger. Or you're mad at God. You're like.
Interesting how
You're supposed to be on my side.
I always love coincidences. I hyphenate coincidences. But when you said God, that's what I was pointing at right there.
Yeah.
And that's the word God. So it's kind of interesting how that happens in this bargaining kind of situation. You might bargain with God that, could you bring him back?
Yeah, please, just make it all better.
I'm angry. So I can see where the bargaining.
Just come and say goodbye one last
time.
time.
The blame game, if you would have loved him more, or if you would have got, I'm making this shit up.
That's like guilt. If
you would have went and got a job, you wouldn't have to have the second job. and he wouldn't have had to go and get killed.
Yeah, it would be like
Making
under
excuses, and and it's the blame game.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the big depression. You may go through a time of loneliness, deep sadness, isolation, reflections, and processing of the loss during this stage. You might feel many intense emotions associated with depression, like sadness, emptiness, and heaviness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably goes way up to the top, and then to deal with the depression, you deny that it's a situation.
Yeah.
And the upward turn, things are getting better now. It says during this time, people can tend to feel more relaxed and calm. The depression and anger beginning to lift some, you might start to also feel an increase in motivation and energy. So it's sort of an acceptance thing.
Not quite there at the acceptance level yet. It's like whenever you start to feel a little bit better, but it's kind of like you're just like working through it. So like where you're not really this focused on it, so you're doing okay. But yeah, then reconstruction and working through.
Yeah, that's where it turns up, and now you can kind of rework it and go, okay, I'm going to do something about this, whether it's go see a counselor or talk with a therapist or take a little vacation.
Yeah, take a little vacation. I'm gonna go do a grief ritual.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to do that. I mean, that's the thing. Some people are doing these. Like, I keep going back, and my mind is like talking to myself. I'm thinking, but people do these retreats, and now they do retreats online. That's not a retreat when you're sitting in your office and everybody's on. Oh, welcome to the retreat.
Yeah, you're not getting away from anything. Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, that's a big part of that's a big part of why the grief ritual is such an important thing. Is because when you go to the grief ritual, it ritualizes the mourning process. So when you are there, you can actually go through this process. You can go ahead and release a lot of that sadness, and you can give it away, because that's like a big part of grief. At some point, you have to realize that it's not really yours anymore. Like it doesn't really belong to you anymore. Because what you're grieving is different than what you might think you are a lot of times. Because, the fact is they're just not, like let's say if a person passes away, right? They're not there anymore. They're not there anymore. And you have to deal with the fact that they're not there anymore. So as you're grieving, what you're grieving is you're grieving your loss of them. The fact that you're not going to see them anymore. It's not about the fact that they didn't get more life. It's not about the fact about any of that. It's about the fact that I hurt because I don't have them anymore.
Right. So like the reconstruction and working through it might be a situation like a friend that you email with, they used to go dancing together, or the guys used to go to the car shows, and the best friend died, so I don't go to the car shows anymore because it reminds me of my friend.
Right.
So then you can get to a place where it says your motivation and energy increase, and you may start to feel more encouraged about life ahead. So you can deal with it and go, oh, hey, I'm going to go to the car show and remember my friend Steve.
Yeah.
And sort of enjoy it as opposed to feel sad about it.
Right.
And that comes to 7, the acceptance and hope.
Yep.
Of accepting that it's a deal and you hope you can get better.
Yeah.
It says, finally, this stage involves beginning to accept reality and directing your thoughts towards hope and your future. Acceptance is a gradual process, and this phase won't just appear all at once, but it's all an important part of moving past grief and adjusting to a new version of life.
Yeah, and that's the most interesting thing I think about the 7 stages of grief. And whenever I was reading that book, that they talk about how you can jump around between them. You're not necessarily stuck in one stage.
Oh,
it
totally.
actually jumps around.
If you had someone that you're close to and you used to do this and remember seeing them at Christmas, or you used to talk about certain things, every day is going to have a different thing. It's going to throw you in another space. Like if you had another friend that both of you liked a lot and that person died, all of a sudden you're by yourself and these 2 people died on you.
Yeah.
I can't grieve with my friend anymore because he's dead too.
Yep. Like my last, the last person that was close in my life that passed away would have been, well, it actually would have been my cousin John, though I hadn't seen him in many years, so I handled that very differently. I was thinking actually of my grandmother. My grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and that was definitely, I went to the funeral, and we talked a lot about her and about the types of things that we experienced with her and the types of things that we're going to miss about her. So I mean, because that's really what it's about, right? It's about talking about what you're going to miss, and it was, that one was very easy for me to accept, as opposed to my grandfather. My grandfather, whenever he passed away, that one was much more difficult. But same scenario in that I don't live out in California anymore. I don't get to see them very often anymore. I felt like there was a lot of things that were left unsaid, and I didn't want to let it go left unsaid. And I was very anxious before he died, and I found out that he was going to pass away. I knew he was going to pass away because he ended up in the hospital before I flew back out here. I happened to be out there, and I was visiting somebody. I happened to be out there, and he ended up in the hospital, and it was literally right before I had to go back on a flight. So I went and I just sat with him for a while, and apparently I was having a hard time with it because the nurses in the area felt like I needed to be kicked out. So I don't know, I was being too loud, or they didn't like listening to me, or I don't know, something. But I wasn't like bawling my eyes out or anything. But yeah, it was. That one was hard to go through because it was one of those situations where I wanted more. It wasn't like one of those situations where I'm like, I understand this is your time, and you're gonna go. It was like one of those situations where I'm like, nope, I have so many things that are just left that I need from you, and there's so many things that are left that I need to show you that I'll be okay. And so it was personal, obviously. I mean, that's a me thing. It wasn't really a him thing. But
I think all of it is, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I remember when my sister passed, everybody was saying, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. And it's like, why are you sorry? She's in a better spot. Because once we're in that heaven thing.
Right.
But they're really saying it to me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to miss her. When I was rejoicing, thinking, hey, she's got a party place.
Yeah.
So they're coming, yeah. Misunderstanding.
Well, it sounds like whenever you're grieving, you have a lot of those.
Whenever I'm living, I have a lot of those misunderstandings.
Yeah.
I'm misunderstood.
Or or you misunderstand other people sometimes too.
You don't know, man.
Yeah, because I mean, if somebody says I'm sorry, and you're thinking, well, they're in a better place. Or the other one was that you were saying, aren't you going to go play your last respects? And you're like, why would I no longer respect it?
Yeah. And I don't know if that might be part of my corny little self or something. Maybe I've always been that way. My brother is similar. He's very contrary with things.
Like, is he still around?
Yeah. I've got one living brother and one living half brother, and the other living half brother is getting up there. He's in his 80s. Kind of weird. I'm 67 in June. What was I going to say? Oh, my brother Tim. We're similar, but he's got this way about him. I think I shared some stuff about him. He had a situation where a friend was going to wanted to buy this aluminum carburetor cover. It was like a scoop that goes on top. It's a big cool thing.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, how much you want for that? Tim says, oh, just take it. And the guy says, no, let me give you some money for it. What do you want for it? 10, 20 bucks, 50 bucks, what do you want? He says, no, just take it. I don't want it. Just take it. He goes, no, you can't do that. He goes, fine, you can't have it then. That's what my brother will do. My brother will take it to a certain place. And I remember he was, get in the snowblower and he'd go blow the neighbor lady's driveway out. And she goes, let me give you some money for that. He says, you can't do that because then we can't be friends and I'm not going to do your driveway anymore. So my brother's very flippy flop like that. And I don't know if it's just the way we were brought up. I mean, I did have a weird childhood. I mean, a weird family.
Yeah.
My mom would do that Christmas in July kind of thing. I had a bizarre upbringing.
Yeah.
Let's go back into the other stuff about, like, you've got this retreat thing coming up.
Yeah.
Are there steps and things that are going to happen in that, or are people just going to go there and camp out? What happens in something like that?
So the reason why I set this up is I am in the process of learning more offerings because, like, you know, I offer integration coaching and you know, stuff with, you know, sitting for just a good way of putting that, but basically shamanic type work. I don't really, just for the record, don't really like the term shaman. It's a weird word that everybody has co-opted around the world, and really, it doesn't really even come from the time and place that people even think it comes from. And it's just kind of a weird co-opted word that everybody thinks means something it doesn't anymore.
It's like guru. Everybody's a guru.
Everybody's a guru, yeah. Everybody's a guru. Everybody's a life coach. Everybody's everybody's a shaman. And it's like, are you really now? Do the spirits talk to you? Are you one of those people who goes out there and the spirits start talking to you and you start hearing voices and then you do mushrooms and all of a sudden the universe starts talking to you?
Well, there's a lot of people that end up reading, similar to like if someone does tarot cards. Now,
right.
What do they call those people? They're tarot cards.
Well, tarot card readers.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But they think that they can, and maybe they can't. Maybe they just read the book so that when the Three of Cups comes up, they go, oh, you're in, they read it.
Yeah.
I think they can. But there's an energy to it. And I don't get into this woo-woo stuff very much, although I've experienced it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But some people really
get into totally get into the woo-woo stuff. What are you talking about?
I do, but I don't.
The woo-woo stuff.
I do, but I don't. Sometimes, a friend of mine used to call them shut-eyes.
Yeah.
People that believe in this stuff, but they don't really believe in it, but they think they do. That makes sense. Because they think they're doing certain things. Like, here's an example. There's a magic trick where you can bend a fork. And I was doing it at this event, and the lady came up to us, I've got a friend that does that for real. First she said, can do that. I said, no, this is a magic trick. And she goes, no, my friend does it for real.
And you're like, no, it's actually just a trick.
Yeah. Your friend is doing the same moves that I'm doing. It's a trick. Although I do believe that if a person has the capability of connecting with the universe, they can distort physical reality.
Oh, yeah.
I've never met one of those people.
I have
physical beings. I think you can distort the perception of the reality and create the illusion. But the actual physical form, getting something to, like telekinesis, I don't know that we have that kind of powers. I haven't seen it.
So I have a couple of good stories actually surrounding that. I will share those ones offline though, because they're rather personal to people.
Maybe we'll do another episode of this. There's a magician, the Amazing Randy. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he used to have $1 million reward for anybody that could prove that they're actually doing any kind of
Penn and Teller
psychokinesis and telekinesis kind of thing. And people, when he sets things up where you can't do certain things, all of a sudden you can't do it any longer. You could do it half an hour ago, but now that there's some other things in place, and you can't do it. And they say, oh, it's interrupting with the energy. That's what I'm talking about. When someone starts talking about energy and they're not really talking about energy.
Right.
That's
no. I agree that there are certain things like that, but I'm just saying, like, so going back to the shaman thing, right?
Yeah.
So how I was talking about the shaman thing, I was saying that it's just weird because I know people who literally are like, oh, I've been doing mushrooms for a year now. I can walk other people through it. I'm a shaman now.
Well, that's what I mean.
It's weird. So I'm like, that doesn't mean what you think it means.
My wife Monica calls herself a shaman, but she doesn't really like to use the word because, like you said, it's so
watered down.
abused.
Yeah.
But she went to Peru, and that's kind of where the shamans are. So she learned from those type of people. And it's kind of like the martial arts too. If I got a 3rd degree black belt, or I got a 7th degree black belt. Really? You know how long it takes to get a 7th degree black belt? You didn't do it in 9 months.
Right.
But you got it. You do have a black belt, and it's got the little stripes on it because you went down to Rising Sun in St. Paul and bought them.
Sure.
Somebody tested you. Here's the other thing about being tested. When you got someone that is a master, who's way up here, they're critical.
They're very critical.
And if you got somebody that's down here that's the master, you're down here. You know, I got my black belt in 3 weeks because I got it in a little mail order thing. It came in the mail.
That does happen sometimes.
I got a certificate on my wall. I can prove that I'm the 7th Dan black belt.
There's this whole thing actually on the internet going back to people busting really funny things. So there's actually a genuine MMA guy who likes to disprove martial artists who claim to be able to do really wild things.
I've seen that guy.
Yeah.
Or some guy's doing energy work and stuff and beating people off with these poofs. And then when all of a sudden he gets a rear naked choke on his neck, he can't get out for some reason.
Right. He's like, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to come at me with the right hook. And he goes, okay. And he walks up there and he goes, and he does it all fast, like really fast, like somebody really would do it. But instead of hitting the guy, he wraps around his neck and he's like, okay, can't get out of the headlock, huh? It's pretty funny. But I mean, your wife, for example, I mean, it'd be interesting if she actually did use the word shaman for her, because she's a dreamer, right? She does dream work.
She does that. And
yeah.
She does this stuff where she's got bands of protection and blocks and things and space, saving space, and all these woo words that whatever. But I've been in situations like there was a situation where at my house in Golden Valley, there ended up being, she was doing some stuff with the drumming and stuff, and there was a flock of blue jays.
Yeah.
Blue jays don't normally flock, but there's like 30 or 50 blue jays in the front yard.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Right.
There was another situation where in my house in Golden Valley, a friend came over and he was working on some handyman stuff. He goes, how do you like living over here? I says, it's cool, man. There's an albino squirrel in the back, and I see deer a lot. And there's owls and hawks and eagles and rabbits and coyotes. And all of a sudden, my head went, coyotes? I've never seen coyotes. I don't know why I said that. So then time went on, and I'm downstairs in my basement working, and here comes this big dog with this big bushy tail. I go, that ain't no dog. That's a coyote. Monica, check this out. So it happened fast.
Right.
So I sort of premonition?
Precog. Yeah.
Yeah, precognition of it and saw it. So that happened. There was another situation where Monica was doing her thing and says, okay, spirits, I need a sign, drop me a feather of some kind, maybe a hawk feather or an owl feather. And we're out in the yard, and there's a big feather, big owl feather. So that's kind of weird stuff that happens.
Right.
And I've had stuff where she's doing her drumming.
That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
It's a beautiful day like this, and all of a sudden there's clouds and wind and stuff. And I'm not saying that she controls the weather, but there's a convergence of things that are happening at the same time.
Right.
She started thinking, okay, I got to do some drumming. I wonder why I'm doing this. Then all of a sudden this storm comes in out of nowhere. So I've had multiple situations where that. So I think she's a shaman.
Yeah. I would say she's definitely. I mean, I've talked with her the little bit that I have, and I would say she definitely has a gift. It's That's really the only good way to explain.
Well, right now she's making
modern
crazy.
day.
She's doing crazy money with her. She does it different than me. She loves to learn stuff, so she invests in courses and stuff. So she makes a bunch of money, then she spends a bunch of money. For me, I would save it and invest it, but she just goes with the flow.
Yeah.
But it's weird. When she first got into this, she had no business experience, and then all of a sudden she said, "Okay, I'm going to do this," and she invested in a course. And because she's a teacher, she's a student, and she stuck her nose to the grindstone and made it happen. I say that she jumps in the deep end of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know how to swim, but she'll learn real quick.
Mm-hmm.
She jumps in the deep end of the pool and learns how to swim. So that's the way she does it. And all of a sudden, in 3 months, she's doing $10,000 months. I'm going, how do you do that?
Holy cow.
And it happened really, really fast. And it's just because her coach told her what to do and she did it. And her coach was, millionaire status kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She just did it.
Yeah.
And somehow she sees that stuff. Where I took the same course.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make nothing work.
Right.
Because I got that mind that says, you ain't going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to do that.
Well, Elizabeth, so we have a course. We follow it to a T. The lady who teaches the course makes millions off of photography. And so she followed it to a T. And yeah, we're making money, but we're not making that kind of money.
Revisit the course. There might be a cog in the machine that's not turning.
We've already talked about where the potential gap is. Mm-hmm. It's actually, the biggest gap was this. It was COVID. That was the biggest gap. That was the biggest gap, and since then, so we had to rework the course in a different fashion. Like the lady who I'm talking about, COVID affected her business, but not really a whole lot. It really didn't affect her business a whole lot, but that's because she's already been established for over 50 years.
Had some momentum, and the momentum pulled her through the COVID stuff.
Exactly.
In my business,
whereas we started
events,
literally right before COVID.
In my event stuff, because I'm assuming that within this system, there's probably an event element to it.
No, not really.
No.
There is a marketing aspect of it where whenever you go
it's
market,
definitely a thing where people come in here.
Oh, we have events. But that is not part of the marketing.
I'm saying that this is different than the event, but people do come to the studio to get their pictures taken.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
It doesn't make for a good picture if you have to wear a mask.
It doesn't make for a good picture if you have to wear a mask, but also this is something that people wouldn't know if they're not behind the camera. But when you're talking to somebody and you're doing this and you're talking to them, they smile. If you're doing this and you're talking to them, they're going, "What is your face doing right now?"
Right. That's why
they're confused.
That's why society's all screwed up.
Right. It is.
2 years not looking at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're talking to somebody and you're having a conversation with them and you can see their face, you can see their eye expressions, you can see their mouth expressions, you can see all of the jaw muscles moving and working, all of that, you kind of know what's going on. It allows you to read their face. We have so many people now who are actually losing the ability to read faces. It's really weird.
I know.
Yeah, it's really strange. But anyways, so we were talking, going back to the grief ritual.
Yes.
We were talking about the grief ritual and we were talking about the shamanism, and I said, well, one of the reasons why I'm doing it, the reason why I'm doing it is because, we do that all the time though. Welcome to the show if you don't know us already. So totally back on track. So basically, it comes down to this. Like the reason why I was explaining the whole thing about the shamanism and stuff like that is because much like your lovely wife, I have a lot of weird things that have happened to me my entire life. But I'm like a combination between the two of you. It's very interesting. These strange things happen to me, weird things happen to me on a very regular basis. Very supernatural things happen to me. And I'll totally acknowledge what happened one day, and then the next day I figure out an excuse on why that logically could have happened without it actually being supernatural. And then I'll tell people, yeah, well, I don't know. It could have just been this. And then I move on to the next thing. But then something weird happens to me again.
Is there any weird thing that you can share as an example?
So whenever I was a kid one time, this is like one of the first like really major ones that I remember as a young teen, right? We were out camping and we were playing and we were kicking a ball around, and well, technically my best friend's sister was kicking the ball around at the time, and we were playing around, and I was playing around because I had just learned how to read tarot like a gypsy, meaning that you don't actually read tarot cards, you're reading a playing card deck.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. It's the same thing. So I learned how to read cards like that, and so I was reading cards. It's the first way I learned how to read cards, and so I'm reading cards and I'm doing the cards, and we're basically playing a game, basically talking to spirits, right, and asking questions and trying to get information. And then she kept on kicking the ball around, and they kept on hitting us and getting on the cards and everything else. And I was making a joke about the spirits sending the ball into the tree and the wind, controlling the wind and making the ball go into the tree. And then seconds later it happened. And I was like, okay, that was weird. And then I just played it cool because I actually have a really good, like, I'm like one of those people who is just like, I could totally do it, just played off like I was like, oh yeah, I meant for that to happen. Right. And I was just being funny about it.
Did you get that on camera?
Like, oh yeah, I totally meant for that to happen. And then, especially as a young teenager, you want to look cool. So then I'm like, oh yeah, if you're nice and you stop kicking the ball at us and hitting us in the head and messing up our game that we're playing, maybe I'll have the wind blow it down for you.
In that situation, how would you say that it makes total logical sense? Because that's kind of what you're doing right now. You're kind of saying that I just played it off as being cool because I didn't really make it happen.
It was just a coincidence. That was the way that I was like,
the coincidence when you hyphenate them. It's these convergences,
right?
Energies.
But here's where it got really weird, because then I said, "Oh, if you're really nice and you stop doing that, I'll tell the spirits to let your ball come down." And she goes, "Really? Oh, that's not going to work." She goes, "If you can make the wind blow the ball back out of the tree, I'll leave you guys alone." And just then, the wind blew the ball out of the tree. So anyway, so the coincidence, there's like it's statistics, right? It's simple statistics. There's a point at where the statistical anomaly is so great that it's no longer plausible that happens by sheer coincidence. If you see what I'm saying, in the way that people think, not the way you're thinking coincidence, but the way that the majority of people think about coincidence, right?
Just
where it's basically it's just a statistical anomaly. It was going to happen anyways, and you just happened to say that right before it happened.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Right.
It's a convergence of your activity and then the physical stuff that was happening.
Twice.
Yeah, up and down.
And then the other weird thing, while we're doing all of this, like the wind kept gusting and blowing, but it stopped blowing the cards around. And I was like, oh, here, let's create a protective barrier, right? And I'm playing at this, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I really don't. I'm just a kid at this time I understand a little bit about what I'm doing, and I definitely read about it at this point because I've learned how to read cards this way, so I've definitely read about it. But I'm a kid playing at being able to actually do something, right? And so the wind is blowing, and all of a sudden, it's not affecting any of this.
So you're playing gypsy. It's good you didn't have any ill intentions with the stuff you're doing because it's a thin veil.
It's a thin veil, yeah. So going fast forward to the grief ritual thing, and
I was just gonna say, let's get back on track. It's interesting why we keep on deflecting from it. So there must be a reason why we're deflecting. So let's try and fight that.
So I'm trying to learn the grief ritual. I want to learn how to perform the grief ritual. The grief ritual is actually it's a West African grief ritual, And one of the reasons why Toby thought that I would be an excellent Toby Christensen.
Toby Christensen.
So Toby Christensen is Malidoma Somé protege, for lack of a better way of putting it. Basically, Toby Christensen was his best friend for like over 20 years. And they even probably more like 30 years.
And this is an in-person thing. He will be there.
He will be there. Toby Christensen is going to be there. Toby Christensen ended up learning this West African grief ritual like no one else on the planet, because he was inducted into the Dagar tribe. He actually was, through ritual and personal growth and sacrifice on Toby's behalf, he actually was made, like, not just inducted into the tribe, but he was made a brother of Malidoma, and was actually taught how to read the spirits in West Africa. The spirits told them to give him a cowrie shell box, basically, to teach him how to read cowrie shells, and which is a divination that they use in West Africa. And so, so he has an honest claim of all of this, and there's a lot of other people who say that they perform the same grief ritual. However, there's not one of them who has performed it for as long with both Malidoma and Sabofu, which was Malidoma's first wife. And Sabofu, even Malidoma would say that Sabofu was probably way more powerful of the witch than he was. And so it was it's an amazing grief ritual. And really the point of the grief ritual, so I'm not scaring everybody off thinking they're gonna walk into some voodoo where we're gonna sacrifice chickens. It's actually it's a ritual that helps people through the whole process by making the veil thin. So you're creating an altar, and you're creating a central space for all this to happen. It's called the ancestral shrine, right? It's an earth shrine. Then you do some other things to it. It makes an ancestral shrine. And then after you make this ancestral shrine, you're infusing it, and then you're doing drumming rhythms with it, creating a drumming trance to go along with it.
You're learning this so that you can
I'm learning to perform it. Yes, and that is why I'm bringing him out to do it.
Okay. So
yeah, long story short, nothing short about that.
So the grief ritual is coming up, but if you miss it, there is an opportunity to connect with. Interesting. I for a second there, I forgot your name. I'm calling you Toby.
Yeah, that's funny. I noticed you had to think about it for a second.
I did. All of a sudden, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot who you are.
I won't be able to perform it for a while.
No.
I have to. I'm probably going to have to do a couple hundred hours.
What I'm trying to do here is let you know that that's what Casey's building out is a coaching consulting thing, and grief happens to be just an element of it. And I started thinking that grieving, immediately people think, okay, somebody died and I'm in grief.
Yeah,
there's lots of other
goes
things.
way beyond that.
It could be a pet. It could be I dropped a dish that my grandmother made me, or maybe it's not even attached to people. Maybe it's, my car got in an accident and I really love that car.
It could be the big R word, which would probably get this show shunted to something negative, that a female.
Yeah, retirement.
There you go, retirement.
You're concerned about retirement.
It could be like with yourself. It could be loss of a career, because COVID caused a lot of people to lose their careers.
My event industry, I'm kind of like done with it. So I'm not really grieving it.
But you are at the same time. That's the reason why you keep trying to respond a little bit.
It's probably not tears, but I do keep going back, trying to bring it back into the picture again.
Would that be in the Are you currently in the upward turn phase or the working through
Yeah, I
phase?
think a lot of the stuff that I've experienced in the event stuff, it's always been in the event industry and the business industry. And what I'm looking at is higher purpose, a higher purpose for whatever the event might be. So the event might be retreats.
Mhm.
Focused on that kind of thing to help
Right.
people as opposed to making more money.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that it totally goes to why I was actually talking about the weird stuff with me as a kid, right? So I've always had this spiritual connection, and there's been a part of my life that is always connected with people going through death and dying. So death and dying has been a major theme in my life. People who are going through excessive amounts of grief, who need messages from the other side, who are they need certain types of closure. Usually weird things happen to me around that. And so learning this ritual, like Toby was talking to me and he did my cowrie shell reading, and he's kind of becoming a friend of my wife and mine, and whenever he did the cowrie shell reading and then talked to me about what it is that I do, he was like, "Oh, you're like my friend so-and-so in Hawaii who, basically was a natural, and the plant medicine actually just literally spoke to him and taught him all of the stuff about being a curandero." So, yeah, and I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, this is just something that is just natural to who you are. You just are this. There's nothing for you to seek out." He goes, "I think you need to learn this ritual."
Well, there is
This
that
is
sort of
gonna
like
be
a
powerful.
natural gift, and then all of a sudden you find out, because I think I've got some spiritual gifts, but I don't dive into it, and I probably should.
Yes, you
There's a lot of,
do.
huh?
Yes, you do.
I don't really. I mean, I don't really play the part.
There's no part to play. You dive into it. You are definitely a spiritual person. I wouldn't say that you're not a spiritual
Yeah,
person.
but I guess
Look at the way you talk about coincidence.
I do, but I'm saying that I haven't really set up a business thing for that. Or look for
Oh,
clients.
no. Well, you don't
Clients
want
are-
to do a business aspect of that. You like connecting people.
Well, I might start wanting to earn some money from connecting people, or maybe I can help people with some ideas of taking their
Yeah.
landing page and the conversion ratio and realizing that it's because you're not right with God. That's why your landing page is in. Which
Your
is
landing page is not getting anything because you are not right with God. And with that, we will sign out.
We are going to sign out, so we're going to leave. We'll probably be back next Monday, so I hope you don't miss us too bad, and don't be grieving just because we're gone, because we're accessible on the internet.
We are accessible. My contact information is almost always underneath the links that he has. And then on top of that, his contact information is in there. So you can always reach out and chat with us. We're happy to talk with people, especially if you're local. We'd be happy to go have a cup of coffee with you guys.
Yeah, or tea.
Or tea.
Okay, that's it. Be safe and happy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice.